Yo, bad news. There's only 48 days until Canelo is supposed to fight, and yet we still have not received an announcement to who he will be fighting. This is a problem. I'll explain why in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. Throw a like on the video. It goes a long way when you guys hit the like button. Appreciate you. And it helps others and indicates to others that this may be content they're looking for too. So throw a like on the video, leave me a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Now, bad news. Canelo Alvarez, he wants to fight on the quote-unquote Mexican days, Cinco de Mayo weekend in May, which he did do against Billy Joe Saunders. But the other date, Mexican Independence Day history, September 18th this year, is 48 days away. I pulled it up for you to make it all too apparent. Today is the first day of August. So August 1st to September 18th, that means he has 48 days. 48, right? 48 days before the actual date. Now, that's actually a bit misleading anyway, because that's 48 days till the Saturday which he would fight. I personally don't even include fight weeks, because usually starting on Monday or Tuesday, they're doing like grand arrivals and Wednesday press conference, blah, blah, blah. Maybe an undercard press conference Thursday. Friday, they're doing the weigh-ins. So realistically, it's truthfully less than 48 days, because you can't really include fight week, because by fight week, that means the fighters, they've already went through camp, and depending on where they're located, they've had to travel to wherever the destination of the fight, wherever the venue, where you know where the fight's going to be. So you can't really consider that into your time frame, if you will, because like, let's say for example, he fights Dimitri Bivol. Bivol would have to be at the venue in the city wherever the fight would take place by that Monday, I would say Sunday, Monday, at latest Tuesday, right? For a main event with a Canelo fight. So to me, this is a very bad look that Canelo and DAZN continue on this trend. It's like one reason or another, Canelo's fights continue to fall apart and provide last minute notice. Now, we know Canelo's a good fighter. That goes without saying. He has skills. The boy got skills. However, the question and the problem that Canelo will be faced with from here on out, and has been faced with, is dwindling numbers. He's getting pretty much paid an amount that he can't provide the same, or at least with the people he's fighting, he can't provide the same incentive to the company he's fighting. Like they're saying Canelo, you know, when the DAZN deal first started, he was getting $36 million. Some of his opponents like Kovalev, like Danny Jacobs, they were commanding $12 million paydays. So 35, 36 plus $12 million, that's like $48 million, roughly $50 million just for your main event. This can't be really justified, since Canelo Alvarez, and I've showed this, has not, since his HBO Showtime days, since he's been on DAZN, he has not done a live gate over in excess of 10 million. His closest was 9.1 million, which he got with Billy Joe Saunders. So it took 70,000 people nearly in one building, and he still didn't, with all those people. So it goes to show you the average price of the tickets. With all those people, he still didn't do over 10 million. Now, that wouldn't be good, because if you look at UFC or like Floyd Mayweather, who definitely was the face of boxing, he can have far less people in attendance, yet his numbers, and I'll probably, because a lot of people like when I break down the math, I'll probably do a separate video about that. So make sure you guys subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. I probably will do a follow-up video, because I've talked about it in live streams, but it'll be easier to present it, you know, in this form, in this format. So all in all, it doesn't look like it's a sustainable business model and pairing and partnership between Canelo and also DAZN, the amount of output and money that Canelo demands and commands versus what you're getting. So I was really looking forward to the Caleb Plant Canelo fight. It would have been for undisputed, but boom, you never know, boom. Canelo Alvarez, Caleb Plant fight. Talks break off with source saying the deal is dead, kaput, finito, it's over, right? So this was at the end of last month, July 27th, ESPN. Canelo's quest to become undisputed champion has hit a major roadblock, yada, yada, yada. And this whole article is expressing how the fight is canceled. And Caleb Plant said stuff like Canelo, his bark is bigger than his bite, right? He says that Canelo had some ridiculous demands, this, that, and the third. Now, again, I probably have to break this into separate videos, but Caleb Plant did this interview and he stated his case. He stated his side of the argument, stating that Canelo had these various and nefarious, ridiculous demands, right? One, you guys see it on the screen. It says one that was absurd was Canelo wanted a clause added to the contract that if Canelo were to get sick or injured, then that means Caleb Plant and his team has to wait for him to get better, right? So if Canelo got sick or injured, Caleb Plant is contractually obligated to wait for him to improve to the point where they had to postpone the fight, and then Caleb Plant would have to, you know, sit around. Couldn't fight nobody else, blah, blah, blah. But you guys see right here in green, it says if I, Caleb Plant, get injured or sick, then Canelo would get a late replacement for the same amount of guaranteed money. So I understand A side, I understand leverage, but on top of, if you look at the article, the other things that were commanded and demanded by Canelo and he was given, that seems a bit petty, and it's just like a sure shot way to shoot yourself in the foot and ensure that you don't get the undisputed fight, because that would be ridiculous. They said Canelo was going to get a guarantee of $40 million, plus he was incentivized with like pay-per-view and distribution rights in Mexico, blah, blah, blah. And on top of that, he's asking for, hey, if I get sick or injured, you must wait, and it stops the whole show. But if Caleb Plant, for any reason, got sick or injured, then the show must go on, and you still got to pay me $40 million. But it's just not feasible. Fox, we know they have money, PBC, whatever. However, unlike DAZN, most businesses, Showtime, Fox, PBC, right? They're not going to be in the lane of doing things and making decisions that aren't advantageous to the future of their business, aka not sustainable. Like DAZN seems to be the only ones in boxing, maybe Triller with the Teofimo offering him $6 million, stuff like that. But by and large, most people aren't going to do things that are a sure shot way to fail in terms of business. So to provide Canelo $40 million plus incentivize him for a pay-per-view on Fox, that's already somewhat of a risk. But the team at Fox and PBC obviously feel they can make it work, right? Paying Caleb Plant $10 million, paying Canelo $40 million, they can make that work. And that's a risk they're willing to take. But then if Canelo is on top of that suggesting, hey, if Caleb Plant got the Rona, if Caleb Plant got sick, just another sickness, or pulled out or injured, I still want $40 million. It's not feasible, because they were going to pony up and put that amount of money up for you two to fight, Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant, for undisputed, all the belts. So why would they pay Canelo $40 million plus to fight a substitute late sub guy like, let's say, Caleb Truex or somebody, right? John Ryder, just because they need to fulfill the date? You know, that just doesn't make sense. Nobody's gonna do that, you know. So it's a guaranteed way to get off the hook and not fight Caleb Plant, because that demand, I don't see why anyone would do that. $40 million to fight a late sub, you know, the same pay. I mean, even look at Canelo's history with DAZN. Canelo sued DAZN, and before the lawsuit with Golden Boy and DAZN was complaining about Canelo's opponent choice. And initially, they said they would not approve the Avni Yildirim fight. Now, I've mastered my job. You know, this goes without saying, but you guys will see, link in the description. DAZN won't approve Avni Yildirim as Canelo Alvarez's next opponent. So this was written in August of last year. But then after that point, Canelo sued DAZN and included them in the lawsuit, sued Oscar De La Hoya's company, Golden Boy, and got out of his contract, and then became a free agent where he wasn't permanently tethered to DAZN. So I guess in doing that legal move and freeing himself up and becoming a free agent, DAZN, I guess, they got desperate, and then they went back on their word, and they did later approve for him to fight. And I know there's no way that this fight made the amount of money necessary to justify Canelo's purse. I know this because, again, who believes that Billy Joe Saunders, who was a good villain and had a belt, and they sold allegedly 70,000 tickets, that didn't even do $10 million in live gate. So you think this fight did? You see what I'm saying? So the walls are closing in for Canelo Alvarez. DAZN, they're stuck with the bill. I don't think they have the infrastructure to really justify these Canelo purses, and it only keeps getting worse. Like I said, he's fighting in 40-something days if he keeps his date. Now, if he decides to go back on his word and not fight September 18th, saying, hey, I got to push it back, then he's capped, because Canelo Alvarez said he wanted to fight on the Mexican dates. So my question is, Canelo, his behavior and his antics are starting to finally catch up. How do your fights keep falling apart? And you said you wanted the quote unquote Mexican dates. You know in advance what dates you would be fighting, Cinco de Mayo weekend, Mexican Independence Day weekend, and all your fights keep falling through. But you, unlike most fighters, are in a position of power and a commanding position, an A-side position, and you know before the year begins the 2 dates that you want to claim. So how is it that we're literally 48 days out and we still don't know who this man is fighting? You know, and it's a bad look for multiple reasons. Drug testing. Are they doing proper drug testing if the fight hasn't been announced? That's a concern for many boxing fans and the sport, because we should try to protect the integrity. Both fighters should be in camp already if he's fighting September 18th, and they both should be getting drug tests for a fight of a Canelo magnitude. That's one issue. Another issue is, why does Canelo's opponents frequently and often, they don't have enough time to train? Like, they don't have the customary amount of time to train for an August, September fight or whatever. That's what's not making sense. It's August and they're supposed to fight in September. So it's a disservice to boxing fans who have to shell out $20 a month or $100 a year for DAZN to see Canelo fight guys who haven't had proper time to train. Like that, what part of boxing is that? We want to see the best versus the best. We want to see if a guy's a champion, not all these rehydration clauses and weight clauses and, you know, sick injury clauses and minimal time to prepare. So this has happened to multiple fighters who have complained about this. Caleb Plant, he said, you're not going to catch me slipping with no time to prepare for my last fight. Kovalev had a quick turnaround. Billy Joe Saunders complained that Canelo's team tried to give him no time to train. Caleb Smith had very little time to train. And then now, boom, 48 days later, you know, the first 48, Canelo Alvarez, if he's still fighting September 18th, DAZN hasn't announced it. And another lastly, that makes it bad is because DAZN it's a paid product. And why would we want to pay if the fighter doesn't have proper time to train, if there's not proper drug testing? And beyond that, it just gives you little time to prepare. How does DAZN send out a camera crew to Canelo's gym and to his opponent's gym And how do you really produce content and shoulder programming around when you're in a crunch and you don't have that much time to even promote? So from all facets, everything I'm saying is clutch. Everything I'm saying is true. You don't like it can't, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And Canelo is not driving the type of numbers given the opponents he's been fighting to make it where it's like, okay, like Mayweather versus Pacquiao. This was one of the negotiations when it finally did happen that still took a while because they had a lot of parties and a lot of moving parts. But that was a fight that had been built up for the last 5-6 years. So you could let that slide. But these events that Canelo's recently doing really aren't big enough to justify not having proper time to promote them. Like Mayweather Pacquiao, okay, even though that was announced late, everybody had wanted to see that for years. But a fight like Canelo Bivol, you got to still explain to the fan why that's going on, you know, because not everyone's familiar with Bivol. He's a solid guy, but he has zero presence in America. His last fight was on a co-feature, so he's not even a main event fighter. So good luck to DAZN and Canelo. We'll see how it plays out. I was looking forward to Caleb Plant. I knew it wasn't going to be Jamal Charlo. I knew it wasn't going to be David Benavidez. And I knew it wasn't going to be Demetrius Andrade. So we'll see what they decide to do, but time is of the essence and time is ticking. Good luck.